The rule of law. So in the last lesson we talked about whether or not we think people are good or people are bad. And we talked about how depending on how you answer that question determines what you think about government and how many rules and laws people really need. So then what's the rule of law? The rule of law is something that we use in the United States. It's a little bit different than the rule of man, and we'll discuss the differences in this lesson. So our goals for today are to define the rule of law, explain the role of government and citizens in the rule of law, and discuss the importance of the rule of law. The questions you'll be able to answer by the end of the lesson are: what is the rule of law, and how does it benefit or help society? And keep in mind to look at the questions while we're going through this, while you're reading what's on the PowerPoint, and that'll help you answer the questions. So the rule of law and the rule of man are all about who is in charge. So in the rule of law and the rule of man, different people or things are in charge. In the rule of man, a person is in charge. There's usually one person or a small group of people who are in charge. In the rule of law, laws are in charge. Let's break each one down a little bit further. So in the rule of man, one person or a small group of people is in charge. What they say is the law. They are above the law, and they can basically do whatever they want to do. So if a society or a country uses the rule of man, that means there are people that are above the law, and whatever they say kind of goes. That's what the rule of man is a person or a small group is in charge of everyone else. And what they say goes. Then what's the rule of law? The rule of law, laws are in charge. So maybe you're thinking, how can a law be in charge? Can't talk, it can't act. That's the idea behind it. No matter who you are, you have to follow the law. No one is above the law, and laws make sure society functions properly. So in our society, we use the rule of law, which means that laws are what drives everything. Everyone has to follow the law. If they don't, they get in trouble. And no one is above the law. It does not matter who you are. For example, we have a president in the United States. Aren't they in charge like a king is? So you might be saying, well, no, we don't have the rule of law because we're ruled by a president, and that president has more power than anybody else. So how could we say that we're in the rule of law? It sounds a lot more like the rule of man. They're in charge, but there's some things set up so even they have to follow the law. They do have a lot of power and are seen as the leader of the United States. But there are some differences between a president and a king. Kings usually stay king until they die, but presidents have to be elected every 4 years. Kings can be king for as long as they want, but presidents can only be in charge for 8 years. Kings can do whatever they want, even if it goes against a law they made. If the president breaks the law, he will get in trouble just like anyone else. That's why we have the rule of law. Even the leaders and people with power can get in trouble. I'll give you an example. Imagine I made a rule in live class saying no one can chew gum while they're talking on the mic. If our class used the rule of law, that means I wouldn't be able to chew gum either, even though I'm the teacher. So there's a law in place, and just because I made that law and just because I'm the teacher, that doesn't mean that I don't have to follow the law, because I'm not in charge, the law is. Well, let's say our class used the rule of man, and I was in charge of everything, and I was the superior leader of the class. That means that I would be able to chew gum, but all of you would not. So even though I made a rule saying that no one can chew gum on the mic, I'd still be allowed to do it because I'm in charge, and I don't have to follow the rules. That's an example to show you the difference between the two. So how come we use the rule of law? Why don't we use the rule of man? We use the rule of law for a lot of reasons. It makes it so individuals cannot become too powerful. It makes it so everyone can, even people like government, soldiers, and police officers, has to follow the law or they will get in trouble. It makes it so we have order in our society and not a lot of chaos. If we didn't have rules or laws, imagine what our country and our society would be like. So does everyone always follow it? Not always. When laws aren't followed, the people who break them need to get in trouble, or else the rule of law really doesn't work. So if you have all of these laws, they're only good if the people that are breaking them are getting in trouble for breaking them. If no one gets in trouble for breaking the law, then it's not doing its job. If they don't get in trouble, someone is not doing a good job protecting the rule of law, and then all of a sudden people are going to start breaking rules and laws, and the whole idea of it isn't going to be working. So that is our video. If you need any help, please contact us. Our information is there. Be sure to answer the questions below. If you do not have any questions, good luck.